Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. We have started the stream. We've got the countdown going for 4 minutes. I'm going to run, grab something real quick. Chat amongst yourselves if you will. No Little Mouse since Tuesday, which means it's 2 from Baloo on Tuesday. Tuesday night.
Cool.
Oh, and there we are. Welcome. What's up, Matt?
Greetings, Ron. How are you?
I am alive. I don't know. I don't know how alive I am. It's been a long Tuesday, but I'm alive. I have everything now hardwired in, and I still seem to have issues with my stream. I don't know what is going on. I'm gonna have to call um, Spectrum and find out if I need a new modem or a new router or if my computer's slow or what it is. Because everybody on the other side seems fine. You seem fine, and here I am, and I'm moving like in slow motion. I don't know what's going on here. So I don't know if that's my StreamYard. I don't know what it is.
Florida is a very populated state, Ron. I think it's just everyone's online now. The whole
Well,
state.
okay, yeah. So my I mean, there's like every unit in my apartment has its own router, but it seems like that. I don't know. I'm gonna call tomorrow and find out if there's something I'm doing wrong or what to get this signal better. Because, like I said, I've got my Ethernet cable. I'm hardwired in. Um, my webcam is now hardwired into the computer, and yet I'm still having these issues.
It's Mercury retrograde.
I have
Ron.
more issues than Sports Illustrated in the 1990s. Oh, is that what it
Kathy
is?
Ireland.
Let's see who all is in the chat. So, when you were a teenager, what posters did you have up? I had Cindy Crawford.
I had Ferraris and like Lamborghinis. I don't know that I had chicks. I wasn't allowed a whole lot of posters. I was in there.
I had
I had Wolverine. I had Wolverine in my locker that a bully came and he just ripped off and he crumpled it in my face. It was really good. I cut out of a magazine. There was no internet back then, so you had to buy a magazine to have stuff. You know, it is Zoorific. Tonight's show is all about the St. Louis Zoo, one of the best zoos in the world. I'm not exaggerating. Ron understands this as a former St. Louisan. I come to you live from the city of St. Louis here, a metropolitan area of close to 2 million people. Today I visited Forest Park, a few miles away, and our zoo is free. I walked right in, and it's huge. What's up? So we're going to look at the zoo.
How is parking right now?
Parking was free.
I want to say hi to everybody. Hollywood.
Say hello.
And yes, parking's free. You don't have to pay like because you didn't do a meter. Wow,
that's Ron. Crazy. I drove right into Forest Park.
Really cool.
And I turned near the Spanish Pavilion, and there was one spot pulled in. There's no spot in Forest Park where you have to pay to park. Not one. There is a lot at the zoo, and there are spaces at the art museum where you can pay, but other than those select areas, every other area to park, I didn't wait 1 second. But today's a weekday, so if that was a weekend, it would probably be.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yep.
I remember
the Metrolink, the light rail
parking lot at the zoo.
We have a thing like Chicago or whatever. It's a light rail. It's called the Metrolink. That goes from all points into Forest Park. And we have buses and other public transportation. Forest Park was first opened in 1876. And it's just a hair under New York Central Park. It's mainly a rectangle. It has many attractions inside. Hello, Manny. Many which are free. As a St. Louis
Forest
kid,
Park is
what's up?
Amazing. I was saying Forest Park is absolutely amazing, and
huge.
Forest Park was one of the greatest one of the greatest places to go on your skip school days.
Oh. We should just open up with a photo when you have a moment, because we're already talking about it. So we do need a reference point at some point. As a kid, you go to Forest Park. All right, we're out of order. This is way deep in the photo. So this is the zoo. This is the birdhouse.
Oh, that's the birdhouse. Okay.
So when I came in, I parked at the Spanish Pavilion and I walked into the zoo. The zoo has a ton of stuff. We just kind of went deep right in the middle. We should probably go back. Ron, just take a minute. I'll talk about Forest Park. Just take a minute. Go to the top one where it's the zoo entrance with that circle thing and the rusty stuff, the animals and stuff.
I think this is.
As a kid, you first go to the zoo. There you go. Yep. As I drove to Forest Park today, this is when you first drive into Forest Park. This is a roundabout intersection going from South City into Forest Park. I parked right over here. That is this entrance that a while ago, a famous sculptor made the sculpture. And if you look at this entrance, you can't really walk in it. It's just a sculptural, decorative thing. Lots of animals. There's a giraffe in there. There's elephants. There's all kinds of animals and birds, and then their environment, the tropical stuff. So when you see this in St. Louis and you're in Forest Park, you know that's the zoo. And I took this photo. I'm guilty. You can write me a ticket. Just driving. This click. It's scary how good that photo is. I did it. Write me a ticket. People love this area. And this is, again, this is new within the last 20 years. When we were children, obviously, this wasn't here. This required like trucking it in on a train when this sculpture was erected. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. I had a great day today. It was a beautiful day. Parked. Ron, you might recognize this. This is the 1904 World's Fair Spanish Pavilion, and it overlooks Forest Park. This is the backside of it. I parked over here, walked this way, and this is a Spanish aesthetic type architecture. It was here during the 1904 World's Fair. The 1904 World's Fair. I guess we'll talk about that real quick. Forest Park opened in 1876, and around 1899, these people in this area wanted to celebrate the Louisiana Purchase of 100 years prior, around 1800s, that ultimately gave this land from France to the United States. And this makes St. Louis the gateway to the West and the epicenter of westward expansion in the beginnings of fur trapping, wagon trains, and supplies of the West, Kansas, and Dodge City, and all these places. And it was a focal
beginning
point
of the Lewis and Clark.
Right.
Lewis and Clark Trail.
At that time, after the Louisiana Purchase, President Thomas Jefferson tasked two guys, Lewis and Clark, to leave St. Louis, travel up the Missouri River at this point, because St. Louis is the confluence of the two largest rivers in North America, the Mississippi and the Missouri River. They lie just north of the city. So what you're looking at is architecture, a remnant from the 1904 Louisiana Exposition World's Fair. It's called the Spanish Pavilion. They built a ton of buildings. It took years and years to transform Forest Park to be able to host the World's Fair. And before television, before radio, before the internet, the only way to learn things, to see things, to have any kind of immersive experience was to physically travel to things like this World's Fair. This World's Fair was hyped for years. And when it was finally pulled off, Teddy Roosevelt came and he gave a speech and he flipped a switch, and the whole park turned on electric lights, and it freaked everybody out. And from April 1904, next slide, please, Ron. From April 1904 to the fall of 1904, 20 million people visited Forest Park and went to the World's Fair. So that's back when the population of the United States was, I have no idea, like what, like 90 million people or 100 million people. You're looking out the front of the Spanish Pavilion, and you see a nice manicured kind of lawn. There's a canal down in there. There's a road, then a canal, and then you see more park. This park is huge. This park goes way that way, way that way. Looking out to your left is the Art Museum and the zoo. Straight ahead is the History Museum. To your right is the Municipal Opera. Next slide, please, Ron. It was a beautiful day. This is the front of the Spanish Pavilion, and you can see how it has kind of bell tower features bookending either side of this arcade style public gathering space. And this is what makes St. Louis so unique. This is the 1904. This is a remnant from the World's Fair. It's also part of the zoo. When you're standing here and you're looking at this photo, I'm in the park. That's the zoo all in front of me. And this is a very famous, iconic feature of the St. Louis Zoo, the 1904 flight cage. So during the World's Fair, they built this thing and they had birds flying around it. Good job. And so next slide, please. So I drove by this.
I just gotta say,
go ahead. What do you think?
I just wanted as soon as I see this picture, it's funny, but just the amount of memories that flood into my head, because of course I lived in St. Louis the first 21 years of my life, which means I've lived 31 years outside of St. Louis, which also means I am much older in real life than I am in my head because it's hard to believe that much time has passed. But what did you call it? The aviary, the bird? What did we call this? The bird? It's more than the bird cage. It has a name. I can't remember. The aviary pavilion. What do you call it?
They call it the 1904 World's Fair flight cage. That's what they call it
flight
now.
Cage. Okay.
It might have changed over the years.
Aviary. I think
aviary.
Okay, so
this thing hasn't changed at all, has it?
In the aviary, the funny thing about it is it also reminds me of not the botanical gardens, the Jewel Box. It reminds me of the Jewel Box.
The Jewel Box is just a few miles away. It's in Forest Park, but I didn't go by it. I probably would have. The Jewel Box is a kind of Victorian freestanding greenhouse that you can go, and it's similar to this, but this is a wire mesh cage to accommodate birds and free flowing air, where the Jewel Box is just up the road in Forest Park. And it's a place where people have weddings and receptions, and we can show that later, but it's funny that
later on, did you go inside and have like photos from the inside of that later?
Oh, I can totally do that. There was times back in the day that St. Louis was not as renovated and it was kind of dilapidated. You could not go in the Jewel Box, but I believe you can totally go in the Jewel Box, and I would love to do that for the audience. It's a really neat old-fashioned greenhouse.
There's so many
London.
It's used for weddings.
Yeah, it's like a London 1890s thing. Yeah, it's used for weddings. It has large tropical plants and palm fronds. And what you're looking at here is a corner of an intersection in Forest Park near the Art Museum. And this is the zoo. And there are elements of this zoo that are really old-fashioned. And there are elements that aren't so old, and there are elements that are new. This zoo is huge. And when I was a kid, I went in this entrance, and you get an idea of how big, how diverse, how rich. This is like a giant amusement park. This zoo is free. It's free of charge. You can go there every day, as much as you like, children, whatever. You don't need your senior citizens discount here. You just walk right in that little door that says North Entrance, as I did. And so you see the care that they have with the zoo. And so let's go ahead and
can you briefly explain for the audience real quick why the zoo is free? Explain the adopt a pet program, not a pet, but adopt a there's a program that I'm sure they're still running it, right, where you can go in if you want to be a patron of the St. Louis Zoo, and you can adopt basically an animal. You're donating your money to the zoo, and when you go there, you get to see the animal that you quote unquote adopted. But maybe you can explain that a little bit better. I don't live there.
There are many ways. I'm glad that you bring this up, Ron. This is actually an excellent point, because people don't believe that this zoo is free. It's a free admission place, just like the Science Center in Forest Park. Science Center, free. Zoo, art museum, world-class art museum, history museum. Why is this? The people of the area that live here, the city of St. Louis residents and the St. Louis County residents, decided to tax themselves. And so a large portion, a significant portion of what makes the zoo free and amazing is there's a tax. And I don't really know how it's collected. I don't know if it's a sales tax. I don't know if it's added to your property tax, but that tax allows this place to be free. So when you go in this place, immediately I heard different languages. It attracts an international crowd. I saw several young unmarried Amish couples kind of strolling along. And so there was the most diverse of all kinds of people at this zoo. The vibe was amazing. You just walk right in the living world entrance. You see this amazing kind of foyer, multi-level, many amenities. There's all kinds of gift shops, bathrooms, accommodating wide space bathrooms, places to eat. You see these displays of a great white shark and a giant squid hung from the roof. And it's immaculate. Ron, you don't see a speck. Do you see a thing of trash anywhere?
No.
This place is not new. This is not new. It looks immaculate. It's probably 25 years old. Go ahead.
Really. And the last time I was there was 2008, I believe. So, excuse me, sorry. But it looks literally no different than when I was there in 2008, as far as the cleanliness, as far as the upkeep, as far as the newness is concerned.
When I will say this as like a park goer, amusement park, right behind me in that area was a ton of people at a visitor's desk right behind this area. I should have taken the photo. They're all waiting for you to, there's a room, a third of the size of this room behind them. All it is strollers and wheelchairs and stuff to accommodate your party for any kind of individual that wants to visit the park. Go ahead, Ron. Let's go now. It's Kathleen, those were those metal, kind of old-fashioned metal. They used to see them now. It's amazing. The second I
need to know, and this is very important, this is extremely essential for me. What I need to know is, can I still make a wax statue for $2?
Well, there is a little thing that I took a photo of, Ron. We'll see this. We're going to comment about this. There's a little attraction in these photos that I thought you and I would have fun talking about. So,
all right.
It took me like 2 minutes. I want to tell you, this is not like Chicago. This is not like San Diego. This is not like New Jersey. This is not like, unfortunately, God love all these places, Philadelphia or Florida. I parked my car free. I walked in 2 minutes. I took a left out of the living world, and in literally 35 seconds, I walked right up to this scene, which is a grizzly bear, right up against a plexiglass in his habitat, and he's swimming. There was children in front of here, and the children had attracted the grizzly bear, and so he was being goofy. He smashed his face up against. Doesn't he look like that cartoon? There's a cartoon,
that's what I was thinking of.
Hillbilly Bears. I don't know the name. So there he is. You see the habitat behind him at this little world-class facility. This bear was really happy. You can see his claws. And so here he is acting like a dog. He's shaking his neck. He's going crazy. He's putting on a show essentially for the tourists and me and our show, you guys out there. Now he's acting like, look at this. Hold on. This grizzly bear went from ferocious, I'll tear your skin off just by looking at you, to don't you want to pet me? His mouth is open. He's kind of sticking his tongue out, and he looks like a dog. Please pet me. So
this was like blowing bubbles.
That's so funny. I love that. This was a big bear. Okay. He kept doing this thing when he'd go underwater, he'd blow bubbles, splash. All right. This is important to know. Yeah, that's a great shot. Look how big his head is. I mean, I would assume that this big bear's head is literally bigger than the screen here. I don't know if that's a female. This is important to understand. Where do grizzly bears live in the world? Well, they live in a mountain range called the Rockies. What you're seeing is Alaska at the top, the Rocky Mountains going through Canada and entering the United States. At the very end is probably somewhere in Wyoming. A lot of that's high elevation, alpine areas. And that is where, if you like grizzly bears, you should be concerned about these areas, that they're protected to the best of their ability, and that we can go there and visit them sometimes without too much trouble. So that's a cool map. Grizzly bears are an integral part of the ecosystem. You need them. And so right next to the grizzly bears is the Penguin and Puffin Coast. This thing is pretty cool. You hang a left into Penguin Puffin Coast. There's a nice young lady who tells you, just don't touch the penguins, please. It's 45 degrees. So, if you're a little cold, you might want to leave. You go in, it's dark and cold for a moment. And then they have replicated kind of the Arctic in there. And they want you to be face to face right up to like Emperor King penguins. So before I went in, this guy was posing for me. Seriously, like, it's kind of this could be our new mascot, Ron. I kind of bonded with this Humboldt penguin, this South American warm water penguin. We had a moment, we shared. I said, I'm alive. You know what, man? I'm alive. You're alive. You're a penguin. I'm a dude. And then he said, take my picture. So I took a picture of him and his buddies. He said, you're welcome me. Then he posed. He said, would you like a different angle? I said, of course I would. And I forgot the name I gave him or her. It doesn't matter. But Humboldt penguin. You go inside the Penguin Cove and Puffin Coast. Let's not forget Puffins. These are emperor penguins just like hanging out, come up to you. You can get super close. They'll dive in the water. They're right in front of you. They're literally, you could touch them. You're not allowed to touch them. You're being monitored. And it's cold in there. So on a hot day, this is where you want to go.
Now, we have a very similar display at SeaWorld here. Obviously, SeaWorld costs, I think, $100 or more per day to get in. It's not free at all. And to get to our penguins, you get on a little family roller coaster first. It's interesting because the first part of that coaster is slow and it takes you by the penguin enclosure. Then you go out and around and come back down. And then as soon as you get off the coaster, you also pass glass that is the glass on one side of the Penguin and Puffin enclosure. And then to get into the enclosure, you actually go through, they bring groups of maybe 15 to 20 people inside a set of doors where the temperature is differentiated. So you go in the one waiting space, it closes, then the next door will open and then you can walk through. So they have the environment very closed off so that the penguins have a constant cold environment. I'm assuming they have something like that there as well, so that the Penguin and Puffin environment is constantly cold, correct?
Yeah, there are kind of like pressure doors, airlock doors you go in and out of to maintain the environment. There's an attendant who's a young man. I left that area. There's an attendant, there's a young man, and You can ask them questions. This though, this is at your own pace, Ron. You can walk in here. You can spend as much time looking at whatever you want. The crowd is polite. There are people kind of filtering in this area and going around this particular display. These people are kind of up against the glass. They're taking their time. There are other folks behind me kind of waiting, and there's just a general flow. There's no one saying, hey, you've been here too long. You need to go now. I perhaps if you would linger a long time, they might question you, like, might want to move on, but in no way, hello, Julia. In no way is you can really spend a time with a penguin that you just don't get the opportunity to do. Again, this is free. You could come here multiple times a week, get to know this particular penguin, give him a name, hang out, and it's I've never seen this really anywhere in any city. We'll keep saying that over and over again about the zoo, about Forest Park, and other places we go. So next slide, please, Ron. Good to see that people are here. I enjoy hearing them in the chat. Ron, so Meramec Caverns. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Meramec Caverns?
Very well.
Walking Meramec Caverns to your left, back in the day, there was this machine that if you put a penny in it and you cranked this wheel, out would come a flattened penny with a design that said Meramec Caverns, 1978 or whatever. In the dystopian future of techno billionaire greed, I give you America, Canada, and ships at sea collectible pennies. Now, you do not, in the future, you do not put a penny in this. You put $1.
That's right.
Put $1.
And then you don't put your own penny in anymore.
You put I'm just going to say this one more time. You put $1 in this machine. It's kind of genius. You get a penny. Next slide, please. I think that says it all. Welcome to America 2024. Next slide, please.
Emerson Zoo is so Railroad.
The zoo is so large, it has its own time zone, and you need a passport to get from one part to another using this railway station. The train is a real train with a real engineer and a real station. You buy a little ticket. You see this particular station is the Wild Station, and there are other ones named. It's a lot of fun. Each station is different. The zoo is nonstop different areas that when you walk through, you're in a different area, different feel. It looks like a park. It looks like Disney World Main Street. The trains come quite frequently, and there's like a lot of cars. In the background, you see a train not being used. They're typically they've never changed. They're red and white. They've got a little canopy for folks. It's just a mini small gauge railway. Next slide, please, Ron. And so Walt Disney was from Missouri. Can you tell? Can you tell that Walt?
Yeah.
He was born in Chicago, Ron, but he grew up in Missouri. This is the railway station, and that's where they put some of the trains at night, and put the trains to sleep, and they talk to each other, in the middle of the night. Here is the. Oh wait, I wanted to go to Gorillas. I thought if I didn't do this, you'd be like, Matt, why didn't you go do Gorillas? Gorillas was closed.
The Gorillas are not viewable today.
They're getting to know each other, and that fine print said there's a new member of the tribe, and I saw a trainer up there. So they had just introduced a new gorilla into this outside habitat that is replicated to look like Africa. It's really cool. It's multi-storied, has plexiglass, and so. What they needed obviously, they didn't need visitors to distract these first time crucial interactions between primates because they need to get along and they're in a tight space. We all know when we're in a tight space. So
we are introducing a new individual to this group. The habitat is closed so they can build relationships without distractions. The new individual's name is Caesar And Caesar says he has special instructions for the other apes in this habitat. So be careful about what's coming.
Yeah, I heard them kind of like getting together and they had a meeting. They had a guerrilla meeting in there. I couldn't understand what they're saying, but Caesar was in there kind of organizing the troops in there, and we'll see. We'll keep you updated on St. Louis.
That,
All right,
that's how it all started.
you heard Ron and I talk about the World's Fair, as he called aviary, which is kind of an old-fashioned word. Here I am walking into the flight cage, the 1904 World's Fair flight cage, as they call it, which is just a giant mesh dome. And it's a cypress swamp replica. So it's mainly water birds in a wet environment.
That's my backyard.
Those are bald cypress trees and a boardwalk. As you see these visitors, we're under the cage now, and we're on a boardwalk. We're elevated above what's mainly a flooded little swamp with bald cypress trees, and it's very, very New Orleans and Spanish moss, and probably there are birds and trees, exotic birds up in the trees that I couldn't really get to.
This is what I love, with the see the architecture over the top of it as you're walking through, and it's just a really nice space. Very comfortable to walk through.
This is a feel-good show. America, Canada, Ships at Sea. This is a feel-good YouTube show of just fun times, St. Louis times, Midwest fun. This is a Midwest giraffe. This is a Midwest giraffe. He lives in the Midwest, and he's hanging out, doing his thing. And the vibe I got from the giraffes were, hello, Virginia. Hello, Virginia. Hi.
Hello.
The giraffe was super chill, Ron. It almost moved like it was a puppet or a marionette. It almost moved as if it was an animatronic. It doesn't really move super smooth. It's almost like it's conserving its energy. It's super deliberate. It comes from an environment where there's not a lot of food. And so it has very deliberate thoughts. It just doesn't seem to waste any energy. And in the zoo, the giraffes have a wide open space, not a huge, very tall perimeter stone fencing. You can walk all the way around this. This is in an area with other African-based Serengeti, savanna-type animals, antelope-type animals, ibexes and stuff like this, horned goat-type African animals. And the giraffe is really big. You see the tongue, and it was just really not interested in its own area, aren't we all? And it's just really just all about anything and everything on the other side. So it's kind of a thing now. You can feed the giraffes. You go over there, you give them like $2. They give you a handful of romaine lettuce, and they send you down a ramp on the other side of the giraffe meadow, if you want to call it. And Ron has a photo of a nice family in action. And these two lucky giraffes are chomping on some Schnucks romaine lettuce there. So
you see this,
take your kids. These giraffes were literally right up in these folks' faces, and their photos, and they were photoed. And these giraffes are hams. I think they know they're being photoed. Those photos had to have been incredible. So,
do you see that comment?
I do.
Okay, so
was it a long run?
I was 10. I was 10 years old.
Tell us a zoo story, Ron.
This is one of my zoo stories. I think I was 10 years old. I might have been 12. I don't know. It was somewhere
80s.
in that
Early
range.
80s.
Yeah. It was the early 80s. We were there with my grandparents. when what happened did happen, everybody laughed at me, which was not fun. But what happened was I was petting a llama, and you know how Genie of the Lamp in Aladdin says, "Be careful, they spit." He ain't kidding. This thing, it's not like they spit like a little bit of water on you. They vomit. They fully regurgitate everything that's in their stomach. And it was like something you see in a comedy movie where I was covered from head to toe in llama vomit.
Man, in the children's zoo?
No, this was in the regular zoo. It was like, it was one of those areas that you can step up to them and pet. I don't think it was a children's zoo.
In the children's zoo, you go up to them and you pet them.
Was it a llama or camel? Anyway,
a goat? It could have been a goat.
It wasn't a goat. It was either a llama or a camel. I'm pretty sure it was a llama, but it was a tall llama. It wasn't like, this was like fully grown. It was way taller than me. I went to reach up at it to pet its nose, and it looked down at me and opened its mouth and like
llama. Awesome. It's a big animal. It's a big animal.
Very big, very big
stomach,
animal.
Several stomachs. This is called a box. ABBAX. It used to be a symbol of the St. Louis Zoo. You might recognize the head and the horns used to be symbol of the zoo. Those particular animals change color in the winter. I just wanted to show you this area. Yeah, they change color in the winter. They're white in the summer, gray in the winter. The zoo is so huge and has so much stuff. This was some kind of treehouse-based thing that had to do with, I think, birds or owls, something like that. And you can see it goes way far down. It looks like a Disney World feature. It feels like it. It had signage, information. It had a really good free flow. You didn't have to go one particular way. No one's like taking your ticket. No one's like saying, hey, you can't go this way. Everything about the St. Louis Zoo is you just go. You go. You don't make a reservation.
Is the big slide still there? This was for kids, and you would crawl. I think there might have been more than one.
I did not see that lately. I'm sure it might be. I did not see that lately. Okay. So there was many things that I was like, I don't have time, and this place is just huge now. I went through a place called Marlin Perkins Plaza. Marlin Perkins was the host of a famous national Sunday night nature-based show called Wild Kingdom. Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom with Marlin Perkins. Marlin Perkins and his associates were famous in the sense that they would appear on things like the Johnny Carson Tonight Show. And they would sit there and they would bring animals, or Marlin Perkins would send his subordinates and talk to Johnny. And people watched the shows on in the 70s, the 80s. We have a clip. Let's check it out. Thank you so much, Ron. This will really this was the director of the St. Louis Zoo. He was a famous national television personality. It's pretty cool. Check this out.
I don't have the audio on this, so you'll just kind of have to describe it. But this is Mutual of Omaha, yeah, right.
They say this is Mutual Omaha Wild Kingdom, and this presentation is brought to you by Mutual of Omaha. The show is now starring Dr. Marlin Perkins, director of the St. Louis Zoo. This particular episode was the Shark Pack of Enoch and Etowac, and it focused on sharks. He says, "Hello, I'm Marlin Perkins. Tonight's show, we're going to go to the South Pacific. We're going to look at sharks." This was the Discovery Channel of its era. He goes, "We got tonight's footage by putting a diver in a specialized submersible so they could film sharks underwater safely in a new kind of technology." So this show was leading innovations and breaking new ground in things like broadcasting and nature documentary shows. I urge you to later just type in Wild Kingdom, Marlin Perkins, watch this and just like understand. If you like Discovery Channel, if you like Shark Week on Discovery Channel, this is the godfather of Discovery Channel, Shark Week. And you see how it's just an informational, good show for everybody. It's a family show. You learn things I didn't know about Etowac or however it is. And so Then they go there, and he was a very robust, physical, outdoor guy. And so if you're that type of guy, if you're a fisherman, if you're a Jacques Cousteau kind of explorer guy, you want to be into animals. There's an episode of him wrestling an anaconda in the water. I don't know why he really had to do that, but you can tell that he was admired by people in these fields, these scientists, these botanists, these marine biologists. They respected Marlin Perkins, and the natives of St. Louis and people of the United States respected Marlin Perkins, and he was one of those feel-good people of our culture and our society. And
yeah, definitely.
So,
I remember
the final word on
watching
your
that.
childhood episode, and so that's all
Oh my
about
gosh, yeah.
Marlin Perkins, a kid from our childhood, and cheers to him. Cheers to old TV and the St. Louis Zoo and him and people like him. So I'm glad that Kit Kat.
This is a cool.
I'm glad that
you
she
look at this comment. I mean,
remembered.
like, this is the thing that you would do on Sunday nights. You would watch Wild Kingdom, then you'd watch Wonderful World of Disney. It was this was a very different time, a very different era. When there was no the information was presented very straightforward, without opinion. It was still entertaining, but it was just very straightforward, enjoyable, entertaining information on the Mutual of Omaha and even World of Disney. And those, they were just like straightforward and like literally made for every person in the United States. I loved that they, I that's what I love. I mean, it's the kind of thing when you look at, and the St. Louis Zoo is a perfect example of this. I mean, there could not be a place that welcomes people, everybody from every culture, from every nook and cranny in the entire globe, like the St. Louis Zoo does. And like you pointed out, they do it for free.
I mean, like John Hamm, seriously, bro, Brad Pitt, Tom Hanks. Let's make a movie about Marlin Perkins, man. Seriously. You make a movie about Fred Rogers. You make a movie about Ray Charles or Johnny Cash. Like, can we make a movie about Marlin Perkins? And, seriously, Steven Spielberg, can we set it when he's coming up in like the 30s? It'd be kind of like a period piece. And then we see him with the St. Louis Zoo later. So when I see amusement parks, Walt Disney places, and God love them, and Six Flags, they feel like a corporate amusement park, but the St. Louis Zoo has maintained areas that look like actual real organic parks where you kind of just want to wander into for a minute, take a break from a crowded area, and transition from one place to another. So I walked to a really old part of the zoo where there's several houses. And as kids, we'd be like, we're going to go to the bird house or the reptile house or the primate house. Ron knows exactly what I'm doing. I didn't have enough time. Exactly. Go ahead. No, go ahead. The zoo is getting so big. I'd already walked several miles and we're still not done here. Next slide, please, Ron. Thank you. I'm spilling coffee on myself.
The birdhouse. There's that birdhouse.
You understand now. Okay, go back. I'm sorry. Let's not. Yeah. It's 2024. This is, I don't know. How old is this? This is really old architecture, but
at least 100 years old, right?
You understand how classic, how detailed, like you see the emperor penguins on this side, ostriches in that mosaic above the word birds and these decorative tiles. Then you have these kind of Corinthian columns on either side. It's a Spanish tile roof, Spanish tiles, super classy. We just make architecture today that's cookie cutter, total garbage. When you showed me that Disney World Epcot Center redo where there's that room, I mean, it looks like I'm at an office park in St. Louis County. When I'm at the zoo, I feel like I'm in a European city that has history and class and attracts an international crowd. So this is one of my favorite places is the birdhouse. This is a rhinoceros hornbill from Africa. Go ahead, Ron.
My sister lives in Amsterdam.
Really?
And yes, so I traveling around that city now. I haven't been there in 20 years. It's 2004. So it was yesterday.
Awesome.
But my point is that you see that old style of classic architecture, and you see some of the buildings in St. Louis have this on them, where in Amsterdam, the building typically will have the year that it was built displayed somewhere on the building, like 1554, 1687, whatever that might be. You see some of that in St. Louis. What I love about the zoo is they haven't said, well, these are old, so we'll just tear them down and build a facility that's easier to maintain. Rather, they have chosen to maintain these structures that could be a challenge to maintain through the years, through the weathering, through the storms, through Tornado Alley, through
all this hailstorms. Right. The dedication to the architecture and the tradition of we want it to look the same. Go back real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, to the house.
No, the first bird. So there's the entrance. This is a rhinoceros hornbill. I'm sure people want to know what this is. Real quick, rhinoceros hornbill. It's an Asian bird. It's very large. You don't get the idea. It's really large. And this place is phenomenal. You will see the inside. Go ahead. Thank you, Ron. This is a tawny frogmouth from parts of Australia and Tasmania. It's a really neat bird. It was kind of sleeping. I felt bad. I didn't want to disturb it. It's a large bird. It's a Congo peafowl. Congo peafowl. This is the male Congo peafowl is in the front of this photo. The female Congo peafowl is back there. And they come from just a small section in Central Africa. And it's a beautiful bird. You're looking at the ceiling of this room. Go to the next slide. Oh, we missed a part of the room. Oh, well, it's okay. That's the ceiling. You can see the architecture.
Where did I go? Oh, there you go. Okay. Was that the slides that I was showing
building,
earlier?
It's not just like Ron. It's not just like the outside. Hey, look, we kept the old stuff, and this is like drop ceiling garbage in here. They kept the beam ceiling and the whole idea. It actually has some lights to let in some windows to let in some lights. Go ahead. You can cruise through the birdhouse now. I forgot the name of these, but they're in their own little habitat. This is a laughing kookaburra, and it is a native of Australia. And it's a really neat
this
bird.
might down under.
Laughing kookaburra. I like the birdhouse. You see the prairie. St. Louis is in Missouri. It's a mix of prairie and forest. And so this is me leaving. And I just walked back to my car. Mutual of Omaha also has a current and active YouTube channel where they have new videos, and it's like continuing the tradition. So check out Mutual of Omaha's YouTube channel and like and subscribe to this particular channel. Follow the Bradleys. Fun. This is our final image. This is the Spanish Pavilion up on the little hill. And so it was an amazing day. I just want to say, the zoo is so big, I kind of got lost towards the end. I couldn't find the reptile house. There's so much new stuff. It's so huge. It's almost annoyingly big. It's almost annoying. I think I walked several miles, and to see the whole thing, you would have walked, I think, 5 miles maybe to see everything. And come and check it out. It's free. It's open every day. It's free. Parking is free around it. And go ahead.
We had talked about this at the beginning. Of course, what we're doing here too is breaking all of Forest Park down. We were talking about this. Matt and I were talking about doing an episode on Forest Park, and we're like, we can't do a single episode on Forest Park. We'll be here till midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. because there is so much to talk about Forest Park. It's huge. It is at least as big as Central Park in New York. I think it's actually bigger.
I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay, yeah, because Central Park is an exact rectangle. Forest Park is not a perfect square, perfect rectangle, or perfect shape, but it is.
It's 1,326 acres. It opened in 1876.
Wow.
It's bordered by Skinker Boulevard, Lindell Boulevard, Kings Highway Boulevard, and Oakland Avenue.
Wow. So, and my mom.
It opened in June 4th, 1876. Since the early 2000s, they spent $100 million on the park. It has several areas that restored prairies and wetlands in this park. It's just absolutely unbelievable. In 1864, they wanted to make Forest Park, and they had a thing. They had to drain a thing called the River des Peres in the middle of Forest Park. They had to get rid of it.
Oh, really? And, I didn't know that River des Peres was drained. I remember River des Peres. Kit Kat says, can't wait for future streams on Forest Park. There's so much. Yeah. There is
there's way too much. There's way too much. At one time the River des Peres ran openly through the park, but due to sanitary concerns, a portion was put underground. And shortly before the World's Fair in 1904, in the 1930s, the portion of the River des Peres that runs through Forest Park was diverted entirely underground to huge concrete pipes. More recently, an artificial waterscape linking Park Lakes has been created, but the underground river remains. So we had to do a lot of engineering to create Forest Park, and we will continue. Other streams will have the Art Museum, the History Museum, the Science Center, the Municipal Opera, the Outdoor Amphitheater, things like the Jewel Box, the Boathouse, rental and restaurant, and the canal that you rent your boat, and then it's like you rent a boat or a canoe and you just go down the canal for a mile or two throughout the park, and we'll explore it with you in future episodes. I had a lot of fun today, Ron. Thank you so much.
You are very well. Thank you for coming out tonight. It is a school week here, which means that is the new thing that has changed. My son went to his first day of middle school yesterday. When you and I were growing up,
it's August 13th.
Yes,
we grew up kids where school didn't start until after Labor Day.
No, and it was junior high. It wasn't middle school. It didn't start till 7th grade instead of 6th. That all got changed not very long after I graduated from high school. I graduated in 90, and it wasn't long after that they changed junior high to middle, brought the 6th grade into the middle school, so that the 6th grade was no longer the top of the elementary school. And we might even talk about this sometime on a future show. Trout Lodge.
Okay, I can go there
if you're familiar.
Yeah.
But that's where we had my 6th grade camp. We went down to Trout Lodge for a week, and that was the biggest thing that we looked forward to all of elementary school. Like kindergarten through 5th grade, you knew that when you made it to 6th grade, you were going to get to go to 6th grade camp. That was
there's a movie that, Ron, that you're familiar with, Wet Hot American Summer. That's essentially your and my childhoods in the summer. Yeah. We were both in the Mark Twain National Forest in a place that looks just like Wet Hot American Summer. He's talking about the YMCA Trout Lodge. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
And I went to YMCA Camp Lakewood, which looks just like American Wet Hot Summer. And in 1982, when I went, my counselors looked just like that. Short shorts, white socks, high white socks, stoner kids. So
the good old days.
We could have a whole episode.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun things coming up. Thank you, Matt. Where can and I do have it streaming on the bottom of the stream. I know your Missouri Ozark Wilderness Guide on Facebook.
Yeah.
And where
If
else?
you go to Facebook, Missouri Ozark Wilderness Guide, I am a tour guide, a hiking guide, and all things Ozark expert. If you need me to take you on a hike, a scenic tour anywhere, a kayak guide, a horseback ride, you need information for your own itinerary, planning anything, you need suggestions, lodging, places to visit, accommodations in the Ozarks, Missouri is my expertise. Missouri Ozark Wilderness Guide. Be nice to hear from you.
If you take us on a kayak, is that one and done? The kayak commercial. It's
all my guides return home safely and happy, and new people, new individuals. They experience new things in nature. I bring them out there. I open up a window and I say, "See this?" It changes their life for the better through things like nature, and so I'm happy to do that. Facilitate these things and show people new worlds. The Ozarks, by the way, you know this real quick, it's one of the most biologically diverse areas in the world. It has more trees, more insects, more plants, more animals, more things to see than many regions in the world. England has 30 species of tree, entire country, England. Colorado, 30 plus species of tree. Missouri has almost 100 species of tree alone. This gives you an idea. And so Ron knows all about this. We'll have another episode about chopping wood and Ron chopping wood.
Oh, man.
We heard the llama story tonight. I'm sure there's a wood chopping story in our future.
Oh, yes, Ron. There is. It involves snakes. It involves snakes.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get going.
All right.
Thank you so much, Matt.
It's school night.
Everybody. What's that?
It's a school night.
It's a school night. That's right. We got to get going. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. And we will see you next week. And I will be out probably at a park tomorrow, live streaming rather than the Daily Dish from the studio. It should be somewhere out and about. I'm not sure where yet. Maybe in a place that resembles Missouri.
In a few weeks, I'll be in Colorado. So I don't know if I'll be able to be available for this audience. Maybe a little hello from Colorado. I'm not really sure how that might work. We'll figure it out.
Well, either way, we'll be here when we can be here. And until next time, we'll see you real soon. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.